How do we embrace our diversity without inadvertently perpetuating the various stereotypes that we strive to eliminate? Okay, that's a deep question. How do we embrace our diversity without inadvertently perpetuating the various stereotypes that we strive to eliminate? I'll be honest with you, I don't know a graceful way to do this. I think, and I've learned this just in coming to First Methodist Houston, it's that this is by far and away the most diverse church that I've ever been a pastor with. And that has taken some getting used to. I'll give you an example. I was preaching on, I think it was Daniel a few weeks or a couple months back, and Daniel takes place in Persia, sort of modern day Iraq, Iran, that kind of area. And I started to go off the cuff, referring to the geography of the region, and I got it all wrong. I put different cities in different countries, and nobody really noticed that except for some people from that area of the country who were with us, or that world, who were with us that day. And they came up to me and said, "We know a little bit about that region." And I looked at them, they looked Middle Eastern, I said, "I'm sure you do." And they proceeded to tell me what I should have said. I told them, I said, "Would you come earlier next time, so if you're at 8:45, I can fix 11. If 11 is off, then I'm sort of sunk." But they were gracious and very kind about it. But that would be an example of, I like to think I'm well-intentioned. I like to think that, I'm certainly open to learning different people. I like to think that I'm open to embracing diversity. But the truth is, we're victims of these stereotypes to some degree. And as well-intentioned as we are, I don't know that there's really a graceful way to sort of eliminate that, except to have experiences where you get to know folks who are different than you. And that's really at the root of it. I mean, as I've spent time, praying about this, I really believe that Jesus is calling First Methodist Houston to be the most diverse United Methodist church in the country. The more I pray about it, the more I talk to our bishop about it, the more I talk to other church leaders around the country to see what their churches are struggling with. I believe we are uniquely poised and being called by Jesus to take this on. Let's be the most diverse United Methodist church in the country. But to take that on, we're going to have to be willing to meet people who aren't like us. And that's going to have to change both our church and the way all of us function. I'll give you an example of how we're going to ask you to do that. It's coming in the weeks ahead. We're going to do a series called Foodie, because I like food. And as senior pastor, I get to say what the series are. Awesome. And so we're going to do a thing about foodie. We're going to talk about food in the Bible. It's also going to happen in August and September, which is Restaurant Week here in Houston. And so we're going to kind of piggyback on that. And what we're going to challenge you to do is, over the course of the series, to have dinner with somebody who's not like you. Have dinner with somebody that you've never had dinner with before. Have dinner with somebody that you may not even know their name. And then what we're going to ask you to do is, I know you guys will have your phones with you because I see you play with them during church, so I know you have them. Yeah, Terry's on his right now. How do you think he makes Facebook posts during worship services? Have you ever noticed this? And we're going to ask you, though, we're going to give you a hashtag. And then so you can tag us, you can tag the church, but then we're going to ask you to take a picture of it. And then we'll use that to then kind of market and advertise to the world, this is who we are at First Methodist Houston. A little bit everybody, something that looks a little bit like heaven. Because as I think about diversity really isn't the word. What's behind that is the biblical question, the Jesus question, are you really willing to love your neighbor who's not like you? Are you really willing to get to know them? Are you really willing to get to understand where they're from and what they're about? It's really, I think with diversity, what we're truly realizing is just the extent of the love your neighbor command and how in today's world it's essential that we do this as we've never done it before. I look at my kids. My daughter is growing up. She's about to graduate college, and I look at her college, and I look at her workplace. She's going to be a nurse. It's incredibly diverse. And one of the things that's happening with her is when she walks into a church that is all one color, that doesn't make sense to her because she's never had that kind of world from the moment she went up in school. And so we as the church have really got to take this on. There are also ways we've got to change the inside of the church to honor this, and I'll give you another example. We had our Vision Night meeting here a few weeks ago, and I was shocked at the number of people who were here. It kind of made me nervous. I wish a whole lot less people were interested in the vision of our church. Jesus dealt with 12. We had many more. But one of the cool things that happened that night is we had the leadership from our altar and emoja service. This is primarily Nigerians and Kenyans who worship at our West Campus. We also had a good representation from our Spanish-speaking service out west, Impacto, their leadership and their congregation. And one of the things after that happened is they came to me and said, Pastor Andy, we want to be a greater part of the church, but we don't know how. Would you visit with us? And the leaders of these communities are not pastors in the traditional sense that we think. These are not folks that have had the chance to go to seminary and get a training and then ordained by the church. These are bivocational leaders. They have, real jobs, not like me, real jobs. And then they also serve as leaders of these communities within our church. And I was driving back from that just thinking, well, how do we do that? And I thought, it's really kind of arrogant, isn't it, that we have pastors' meetings every week, and it's Wednesday at lunch, and Wednesday we all have lunch together. But the way we structure that, it deliberately excludes the leaders of those communities. They can't be there. So maybe what we need to do is switch it to Wednesday dinner and have dinner with them to find out what's going on with our Nigerian and Kenyan brothers and sisters, to listen to the Spanish-speaking services, because like one of the things they talked to us about this series is, ask me anything. Obviously, I'm speaking English or trying, but could they translate it so that that Spanish-speaking community could be part of our overall church? Those are the kind of things we have to wrestle with as an organization to really take this on. But I do want to kind of press it with you. I genuinely believe that Jesus is calling us to be the most diverse United Methodist church in the country. When you look at the top 50 United Methodist churches in America today, they are all, with the exception of us, one-color churches. And just think about it. I mean, when we get to heaven, do we think we're going to see a bunch of people who look just like us? I mean, the biggest difference would be Jesus. He wasn't Norwegian, in case you didn't know. And maybe that is news to some of you, okay? Jesus was Middle Eastern, all right? Yes. So why not prepare for what heaven's going to look like through the church now? We live in the most diverse city in the United States. We live in a city that's Pentecost waiting to happen. God has sent people from every nation of the world to our midst. And I think the Holy Spirit's just looking down, waiting to kind of blow through a church that's willing to take this on. And so as we think about it, not just downtown, but also out west where we are even more diverse than we are here, this is a huge calling I believe Jesus is giving to us. And if we take this on, and even if we're a little clunky with it and step on some stereotypes, if we're persistent, what I think we'll find is we get a little taste of heaven on earth because of our effort to get to know what God is doing through brothers and sisters from all over this world who may be very different from us, but I think we'll find out how much we share. We all need Jesus. We all need forgiveness. We all need to know we're loved. We all want great things for our families and for our children. And as we kind of stumble through this diversity thing, the truth is, I think we'll find God's been very busy pointing out how much we all, through Him, share.